Hi guys, welcome back. How you doing? Hope you're all doing, staying healthy and being safe, washing your hands and doing all that good stuff. Well, the last time we were together, we kind of took a little break from history and we were talking about natural resources. Do you remember what natural resources are? Okay, natural resources are something from nature that God created for people to use. Okay, so we had a couple of different natural resources that we had talked about. Now, natural resources can be broken down into two groups. They can be either renewable or non-renewable. Remember, renewable resources are resources that can be made again naturally. Non-renewable resources are resources that no longer form today. Some examples of renewable resources are soil, water, and trees. Those can all be naturally made again. Non-renewable resources, examples are coal, minerals like rocks and gems, and gold. Okay? These can no longer be formed today, at least not naturally. All right, so I mentioned gold. Here we go. Gold. Gold is a non-renewable resource. I want you to remember that in our future lessons because that's going to be a big deal about our country expanding and moving to the west. The fact that gold is a non-renewable resource, that it can't be formed again today. There's only so much of it on the earth, and once it's gone, it's gone. Once it's all taken up, it's all taken up. I want you to remember that for future. Okay, so back into our history. Do you remember who the president was at this time? Yes, it was Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson is our president right now. Now, as president, one of very important jobs that you have is you have to interact and talk with leaders of other countries. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today with Thomas Jefferson and having to interact and deal with other countries' leaders. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about with that is first of all, how small we were at this time. At this time, remember, we only have 13 states. And it's really only right here on the edge of the East Coast, right here. We have about this much, and then there's like a Mississippi River right here. That's as far west as our land went. So, our Mississippi River was the western border of the United States during the presidency of Jefferson. So the area that we had was right here on the water's edge, just to about here, which was the Mississippi River. Nothing like what it is today. All of this other area out here past the Mississippi was owned by other countries. So this is how Thomas Jefferson had to interact with other leaders of other countries. Now, there was one in particular area that Thomas Jefferson was very interested in, or at least a city he was interested in. He was interested in a city called New Orleans, and that city happened to be in the part of the Louisiana Territory. Now, the Louisiana Territory was a very large area of land that was just west of the Mississippi. So remember, we said the United States was from this coast to about here. Well, not all of it, but a lot of the area past the Mississippi over in this area, that was considered the Louisiana Territory. And there was one particular city that Thomas Jefferson was very interested in, and it was New Orleans. New Orleans was a very important city in the Louisiana Territory. Now, there's a couple of reasons why it was important. One was it was good for trading. Another one was because it was close to the water. Now, this Louisiana Territory was owned by France. So here's our other country that he has to interact with. France owned the Louisiana Territory and the city of New Orleans. Now, by having France own this city, that meant they could control whether or not we could go into the Atlantic Ocean. How could they control that? Good question. Let me show you on a map. All right, here we go. Now remember, I get backwards with this, so I apologize if I don't point right. Okay, so here we go. So this orange is the United States at the time of Thomas Jefferson, the beginning of his presidency. So here is here is the coast, and we go all the way across to that black line right here. This black line is the Mississippi River. Okay? Remember we said that the Mississippi River was the western border of the United States at that time. Down here at the bottom is the city of New Orleans. You see how it's right there at the bottom? Well, the Mississippi River empties out into this water, and this water can go around to the Atlantic Ocean, which is where America wanted to be able to put their ships. Well, if France owns New Orleans, they can tell the ships, nope, you can't come down the Mississippi River, and you can't leave and go into the Atlantic Ocean. Well, that can cause a huge problem. Now, this blue area up here, this is the, see, I'm missing it. It's hard to do this backwards. The Louisiana Territory. All that blue in there is what was owned by France. The pink over here was owned by another country. But this blue was all owned by France, including New Orleans. Well, Thomas Jefferson didn't want the French being able to tell him whether he could go into the Atlantic Ocean or not. So he came up with a great idea of wanting to buy the city of New Orleans, just the city. He didn't want the rest, just the city's all he was considered about buying. So he went to Congress and he asked them, this is my idea, can I do this? Congress approved of it. Remember how our three branches work? Not one branch has all the power. So the president could not just come up with an idea and go do it. He had to ask permission. He had to get approval. And he did. He came up with a great idea to wanting to buy this city. Congress agreed with it. So he gave him the approval and he went. He went to, now he didn't go, but he sent men to go to France. Now, we said France owned this land here. Does that mean that the leaders, the rulers of France lived there? No, they were living in France. Where is France? Well, France is all the way over here in Europe on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. So Thomas Jefferson sent men across the Atlantic Ocean all the way up into France and had them talk to the French about buying the city of New Orleans. Well, guess what? They were so excited about selling New Orleans, they also said, hey, you know what? We want to sell you the Louisiana Territory too. So Thomas Jefferson and the Americans were like, oh, that's awesome. That's what we want to do. So France sold America the Louisiana Territory and the city of New Orleans. So we call that the Louisiana Purchase. The purchase of the Louisiana Territory, which was that big, huge blue area right there. All right. Now, this is something that your parents will really appreciate. They bought the Louisiana Territory for 40 cents an acre. Can you buy anything today for 40 cents? No, you can't even buy a candy bar for 40 cents. 40 cents an acre. Now, that's not 40 cents for the whole thing. That's 40 cents per acre. So it's almost kind of like saying 40 cents per size of house or land that a house would be on. And there was a lot of those in there. But if you ask your parents, they'll say that was a great deal. So that was a very important thing that President Jefferson did. Now, not only did it help the trade, because we owned New Orleans, we could let our ships go out into the Atlantic Ocean and trade with all the other countries. It also doubled the size of America. So now not only do they own the orange part, but they own the orange and the blue part. That's huge. So that gave them plenty of ability to go trade, and it also gave the farmers all kinds of room to start farming bigger and bigger and bigger farms. So it doubled the size of America, which was really, really cool. Okay, so that's the first nation that Thomas Jefferson had to deal with. Another nation at this time that he had to deal with was a nation, leaders that had pirates. Now, when I say pirates, what do you think of? Okay, well, these pirates were not nice people. These pirates were very icky pirates. I would not want to meet them. You would not want to. Your parents would not want to meet these pirates. These pirates were very big and mean and nasty, and they were basically just bullies. That's what they were. They were called the Barbary Pirates. The reason they're called the Barbary Pirates is because they came from the coast of Barbary. Well, the coast of Barbary is right up in here above Africa, right in this area right here. So this is where they came from. And what they would do is they would take their pirate ships and they would come out here and they would sail all around the Atlantic Ocean. Now, do you remember what we talked about? What's going on? All these other boats that are out here, what are they doing out here? What did that New Orleans help us do? Right, they're trading. So all these boats from all these other countries are out here bringing their trade goods back and forth. Well, the Barbary pirates would come out here, they would find a ship, they would attack that ship, and they would take all their goods. They would take all their food, they would take all of their spices, they would take all of their gold and all of their cloth and all of their food and everything that they had, and they would keep it. And then they would take the people that were on the boat and they would make them slaves. Not very nice. So that's why they call them mean bullies, because they would pirate, they would steal all these things that were not theirs. Well, other countries like France and England, who had a lot of money and were big countries, well, the way they fixed that problem was they would pay the pirates so that they wouldn't attack their ships. So France and England would give the pirates money, and then the pirates wouldn't attack their ships as they were going by. But does that fix the problem? No, the bad behavior is still happening. And if you happen to be a small country and you can't pay, well, now you're getting attacked. Well, Thomas Jefferson didn't like this. He said, that's not right. That's not helping anybody. No, I am not going to pay for them so that they don't attack my ships, and I'm not going to let them attack my ships. So what he decided to do, he came up with a plan to stop the Barbary pirates. Now, I have to take a pause here for a minute. I want to explain to you what a standing army is. Okay? A standing army is an army the government keeps ready even when there is no war. So right now, our country today has a standing army. We have an army, we have a navy, we have an Air Force, Marines, and the Coast Guard, and they're all ready in case we have a war. So even if there is no war going on, we still have the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marines, and the Coast Guard. Even right now, during what's going on in the country right now, we're using our Army to help us with things. Well, Thomas Jefferson didn't like having that because back then, other countries that had a standing army that was always there, they would take over the government. Thomas Jefferson didn't want that. So he was a little nervous about having a standing army, and I can understand why. If you see other countries doing that, you want to make sure that your government's not taking over. But there are good reasons to have a standing army. We have one today, and it helps us to be ready to fight the bad guys. It helps us in case a country tries to attack us. Then we're ready for it. Or if something happens like is happening right now, you have the army that can help our country do things and bring things and take care of us. So standing armies are good. But back then, Thomas Jefferson he was a little nervous about them. So he didn't have a standing army. But he still wanted to fight the Barbary pirates. So what he did was, what little bit of army and navy he did have that he could get together, he sent them over to get the stuff back. So what they did is they went across the ocean into the coast of Barbary, into a place called Tripoli. This is where the Americans met the Barbary pirates. And this, right up in here, is where the Barbary War happened. The Americans went in, they snuck in, they took all the things back that the pirates had stole from them, and they took back the people. Now, the Americans could have been killed, they could have been caught. It was very dangerous to go up against these pirates. But Thomas Jefferson knew that this is what he had to do. He needed to stand up to the pirates. He wasn't going to back down, and he wasn't going to be bullied by them. He stood up to them. And guess what? They won. They won! In fact, the Barbary pirates didn't want to fight Americans anymore. So they signed a treaty. They signed an agreement that said they would not attack American ships anymore that were in this area, which was a really good thing. Now, remember, we're a small little country, and we're brand new. We've only been around for a couple of years. That's it. Not nowhere near as old as some of these other countries over here, like England and France that are in Europe. Now, these other countries found out what America did. They were so impressed. We earned their respect because they saw that even though we were a small little country, didn't have a lot of money, didn't have a lot of area, we still stood up for what was right. And we stood up against the Barbary pirates, and we won. And that gained us respect for all the other big countries that were there. So these are just a couple of things that Thomas Jefferson did as president. So going over our big picture ideas, we have one, the Louisiana Purchase. Okay, well, we purchased that land of Louisiana for only 40 cents an acre, but it doubled the size of our country, and it gave us the trade through New Orleans. The second thing we did was, let me make my lines there. There we go. There. All right. The second thing we did was, or that Thomas Jefferson did, was he made very big, important decisions that made America stronger. One of them being the Louisiana Purchase, and another one being taking on the Barbary pirates so they would stop attacking the ships. And then the last thing, as we just talked about, was we fought the Barbary pirates and gained respect from the other nations that were in the world. They realized that, hey, America? They got some stuff going on over there. And they were impressed by us. So those are our big picture ideas. And so for your assignment today it's kind of a study guide, a review guide. All right? Turn the light off so you can see. Here we go. Okay, there are 14 questions, all right? So the first section is going to be circle D if the statement describes Jefferson or the Democratic Republicans. Circle F if the statement describes Adams or the Federalists. We did this the other day. So, thought that farmers had freedom, but that traders did not. Traders meaning people who traded goods, not people who were disloyal to the country, but traders are people who traded goods for other goods. Number 2, favored religion in government. Which one of the parties did that? Number 3, likes farmers and traders. Again, traders are the people who traded goods. Number 4, believed a man should be able to work in government whether he went to a church or not. Which one of the people or political parties decided that? Then the next section right here is to complete each sentence. The third president of the United States was, we just talked about him today. Number 6, something from nature that God created for people to use is called a what kind of resource? And then the next 2 are the 2 different types of resources. Decide which one goes there. And this one is a lot like the paper you did before. Decide whether they are renewable or non-renewable. Circle the R for renewable, the N for non-renewable. And then the last 2 are fill in the blank. What precedent was set by the 1800 election? What big thing happened during that when they changed political parties? And then the last question is, what country sold the Louisiana Territory to the United States? All right. If you have any questions about anything, just email us. We're more than happy to help you. And again, you don't have to print this out. You can just write 1 in your answer, 2 in your answer, or if you're able to print it out, you can print it out. Once you've completed it, send it to your teacher. This is going to be graded as a daily grade. All right. So make sure you really take your time and get the answers right, and then send it to us. All right, guys. Okay. I will see you next time. I miss you. Hope you guys are all safe and being healthy. I'll see you soon. Bye.